We've got a pretty booming topic.
There's so much happening all around AI.
And we're going to look at this tool and we're going to figure out this problem in this way.
There is still a lot to be done.
Prompt engineering.
It can only make you 10 times more powerful.
Not AI replacing jobs, it's people who know how to use it.
People would never lose jobs to AI.
Like, is the wild, wild west coming to an end?
I just go with the assumption that there is something.
Welcome back to GetWyse, the show where we explore the digital evolution shaping how we work, connect, and grow. I'm your host, Chris.
I'm Kelly.
And today, we've got a pretty booming topic, one that we've talked about a lot on previous episodes, but today we're going to really divulge into the specifics of it, artificial intelligence, and what it really means and how it's changing the way that we do business and what the future holds. And there really is no better person to explain and divulge into the specifics of this topic than our Director of Operations, Raghu. Thank you for being with us, Raghu. How you doing?
Raghu. Thank you.
Glad to be here.
Glad that you're here. Raghu's career has taken him from engineering to innovation leadership and right into the heart of AI. So today we're diving in to see how he sees the role of AI evolving and how we can use it more wisely. So let's get right into it. But before we get right into specifically AI, my friend, you've had quite the career. Very eclectic.
Yeah, this is kind of exciting for us because you interviewed both of us when we first started here at TechWyse, and now we get to interview you. So the tables have turned. Are you ready for this?
Tables have turned indeed.
Gosh, I'm in the hot spot today.
We want to know about your career history, almost like we are interviewing you for this job here. But we want to ask, take us back to the beginning of your career in digital marketing, where you kind of started, how you got here, and take it away.
Awesome. Quite honestly, my career began when I was curious on doing special effects. So I actually was keen on doing editing and special effects for movies. That's how my career began. I worked in an animation studio in Mumbai, doing some cool special effects for a TV show back then, which was a very short stint. Thereafter, I moved into desktop publishing and website design. That I'm talking of 1997, 98, where websites were a digital version of a poster.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that happened. Then I started doing a lot of SEO. Keyword stuffing was considered very, very cool back in the day, which is obviously...
Things have changed.
Things have changed. So that was then. Thereafter, I did a lot of stuff. I've been with IT, I've been with consulting, I've been in the BPO industry, I've been in products. Worked for large organizations like Convergys, which is an HR consulting outsourcing company in the US. Then I was with Fidelity Investments in their India office for about 4 years. I was with an IT company doing a lot of tech transformation and stuff for a very, very long time. Yeah.
So the resume is stacked.
Remember when I said eclectic, guys?
Yeah.
This is,
You kind of been and done it all.
Do you feel that way? Do you feel like you've done it all?
Well, I've done quite a bit, but I think there is still a lot to be done. And I think AI can make a lot of people's dreams come true way sooner than they can even imagine. And that's the reason why I think that's something that all of you are excited about. We are excited about. I'm excited about. So, yeah.
So here at TechWyse, can you talk us through kind of what you do in your role now? You had this interesting career path, but what are you really loving about your role now and what you do on a day-to-day basis today?
Great question, Kelly. I think what I do is, broadly speaking, operations, delivery, and strategy. Huge chunk of innovation just got added to my portfolio before we realized it. I essentially head operations, so I keep saying this, besides closing sales, I'm pretty much doing a bit of everything. I overlook the entire digital marketing services department and stuff like that. And we have capable people like Chris and Kelly supporting me, so then I also have a party while doing that.
But you really are a problem solver. In the simplest form, you're a problem solver. You're a
solutions-oriented man.
Yeah. You're really if I go to you and I say, Raghu, I'm dealing with this problem. I need more efficiency here in this area of my job. You're like, hey, Kelly, I got you. I'm going to put you in touch with this person and we're going to look at this tool and we're going to figure out this problem in this way. So you're a connector of dots.
I believe so, and I'm glad you're saying this.
Yes. You have the job. Well done.
Yeah.
You're hired. So today, Chris and I obviously want to talk about AI, and we came to you as our host and guest for today because you've taught us a lot about AI in the last little bit. And TechWyse is really kind of jumping into AI more than ever before, trying to understand how we're going to use it, why we're going to use it, how we talk about it. There's a million questions.
Yeah.
But I want to ask for the people who might be watching who are like, AI seems so scary. I don't know how to even start with this. Like, I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole. What would you say to those people who are nervous about it being like iRobot or something too intense?
It's going to take my job.
It's going to take my job. There's a lot of fear.
Correct.
So what would you say to those people if they're listening and maybe afraid to continue listening?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a very genuine concern that everyone has. There are two ways of looking at this. There are two analogies that I can give, right? One is if you look at the stock market and if you've never invested in shares and, high risk investment portfolios, then it seems extremely intimidating, right? Because you don't know what you don't know. And from the outside, everything looks very scary.
Yeah.
But if you got in and if you learn the ropes of it, then you realize that it's not all that scary or unpredictable or, things like that. So you just got to kind of wrap your head around it. And like I say, as simple as that, when you're learning to swim, you just got to jump into the water, because from the outside, it's definitely scary and cold and you don't know what's underneath, right? What lies beneath. So you just got to go for it. And once you start getting into the action, that's when you realize that things are actually not that bad.
So was there a moment in your career or a moment in the last couple of years that you were like, okay, this is happening? Like the AI change, the big shift, like this is happening now.
You described it almost like jumping in a pool, right?
Yeah.
Like just that shock of like the water, and the dread usually is way worse than the shock.
Yeah.
What was that moment of like hitting the water for you, if anything?
Well, quite honestly, there's so much happening all around AI. I mean, if you are on LinkedIn, you can't help but being hit at with a ton of innovation that people are talking about. Yeah. So I think it's been more than a single specific moment. It's been incremental micro attacks of so much happening in the world of AI, whether it is content, whether it is innovation through video, audio, even business processes and efficiency. It's phenomenally high.
And when you go about learning more and getting your information, you mentioned LinkedIn. I know you're quite active on LinkedIn. You are consuming a lot of information. You're doing a lot of research. You and I also went to Collision Conference last year to gain more insights and learn more about AI and what's going on in our industry. But what are some of those key things that you're looking at, either news organizations or different platforms where you're getting really high quality information about AI that's helping you?
Yeah, no, I think the fundamental philosophy that I have with regards to AI goes back to the core philosophy of learning, right? As long as you're a sponge, you absorb what's around you. Having said that, you got to be a bit of a critical sponge, because there's a lot of nonsense that also comes your way, and you need to know what to filter out.
A lot of fake news.
Exactly, right? So that kind of gets dicey. But I think what's happened with me is I love listening and digging deeper into what comes my way. By virtue of having been in consulting, in product development, in services, and all these industries, the fact that you got to learn very quickly and grasp as much as you can with a very limited amount of time has always been the way I've operated, right? So that being the case, it was more natural for me than anything else to kind of open up to what possibilities exist with AI. And I think the best part is, unlike high tech or something very complex, it is very accessible.
Yeah.
Right. For instance, if you were to use, and I'm sure most of you have used, chatgpt and tools like that, it's extremely user friendly. Right. So even for the uninitiated, you don't need to know a line of coding or whatever. Even if you know simple plain English, you can get things coming out of it. And quite honestly, you don't even need to speak to it in English. So.
I could even for you specifically too, and what we do on our day-to-day in TechWyse, I need to tip my hat to you, or give you your flowers, as the kids say these days, because I feel like AI is something that's new. It feels like every single week there's some new module or development with GBT, or they release something new. And I feel like you, as like my boss, even really challenged me in the field of AI, because I come from, a background of, creativity and video editing and things like that. So I almost kind of had that feeling initially when it comes to AI, and
they're gonna take my job.
Yeah. I'm an editor. No, I bet I'm better than the AI. And it's just like some of these applications that you've brought forward to me have kind of been like, okay, maybe it'll shave a few minutes off, but you know, and I use these applications, and it really is like, oh no, Raghu was right. This is this is innovative. This is changing everything for us.
Until you're actually using it, it can be really scary, right? You don't know what you don't know, and then you do start to use it, and you realize that you can spend more time on strategy and critical thinking and big picture stuff, and like the little tiny details that take you too long but that aren't as important can get done by some automated system. Then you're now working faster and smarter and more powerfully than ever before, and you can get more done, which is unlocking a whole lot for a lot of people in many different industries.
And a lot to grasp.
A lot.
Did you want to speak to that?
Yeah. No, I think the fundamental point here is the mindset, right? If the mindset should essentially be on the lines of exploration and understanding, look at it as a friend rather than a threat, because you know the news media predominantly on mainstream would probably hype it up as saying, hey, there's an impending crisis, new things are happening around, jobs are going. That's the first thing that news media houses love to pick up. If you look at LinkedIn trending stories, it's all fear tactics work, right? So, and if that is the light in which AI has been projected or is being consumed, then quite naturally, that's how you're going to think. You're going to think, my God. And I think it's not just me saying this, but most people have said this. People would never lose jobs to AI. They would lose jobs to people who know how to use AI. It's just technology, right? You know, back in the right. I mean, when the internet happened, the publishing industry was so threatened. Before that, there was video on demand. There was video cassettes and CDs, and then OTT happened, and Netflix happened, and digital media happened, and then those people started feeling insecure. I think it's the nature of evolution. As long as you take it from that perspective, which is why I talk about mindset. If you look at it from that perspective, there's nothing really to fear. It's honestly an opportunity. And again, not me saying this, a lot of people have said this. This is the time, the best time in the last so many centuries that wealth creation and possibilities have become multifold. It's become possible for you and I to kind of, partake in that journey because of technology innovation. AI is a sliver, right? It's basically the innovation and progress that people are making. If you look at it from that perspective, it can only make you 10 times more powerful, Chris.
Oh, yeah.
I was at a summit just last week, and one of the speakers on AI was talking about how we need to look at AI or ChatGPT almost like an intern. Someone who's just kind of helping us with certain tasks, and who isn't absolutely the subject matter expert on everything. They haven't been in their career a long time. They're new to this. They're still learning. But also there's this importance of we can train AI to be smarter and to serve up better results for us. So you're right when you say it's not AI replacing jobs, it's people who know how to use AI really well. So the more that we kind of mentor AI almost as our intern with people who know how to use it, the smarter it becomes, the better at its job it becomes, and the better it can help us.
Let me add to it.
Yeah, go for it.
Absolutely, you're right. Treat these tools, or predominantly the LLMs we have, whether it's Perplexity or Grok or OpenAI, ChatGPT, all of these tools as your interns. But each of these tools have a nuanced engine, like, ChatGPT has deep research, or Perplexity has something similar, which is on their paid plans. But those, if you switch on those features, you no longer have an intern. You have a trained employee. So that's just something that I'm going to
go.
If anything, you're kind of jumping ahead, because I was about to ask, like, you specifically, what are the tools that you employ, like on your, like the applications that you specifically use? And you're kind of saying this, where you feed it information and it kind of creates that module for you, right?
Totally. I mean, I honestly have my own personal Perplexity and my own personal ChatGPT account that I pay for. It's simply fascinating. It's fascinating, right? If I were to, for instance, look at what's happening on the weekend, right? Where do I want to go? Where do I go? I go to Facebook events. I go to Meetup. I do a Google search. I get the same rundown, boring, mundane stuff. But if I ask the same question to ChatGPT and put it on a pro account, it knows me. It's going to give me very specific inputs with the prices, with an estimate of how crowded is it going to look like. Is it, specific to something that I'm keen on? I've literally, stopped using Google for Google search. I kind of use, these kinds of LLMs for searching. So yeah, for sure. I think ChatGPT and Perplexity are the two power tools that I use all the time to kind of get my mind running.
Yeah.
And then, of course, depending on the situation, there are so many tools out there that one could use. I mean, there are, like I said, there are native tools that have now become AI enabled. Like we all use Canva. Canva existed, Loom existed before AI happened. And all these tools now have an AI feature that kind of gives more power to them. So there is that. And then, of course, there are completely new AI tools like your Fireflies, Otter AI, and so many that have come up. I think we live in the world of, micro SaaS, as they call it, SaaS being software as a service, which traditionally has been, building massive software projects with a lot of funding. We live in the era of micro SaaS, like solve one problem, build one small Chrome extension, build something called, whatever, that can really take your video and clip it into small bits, which is Opus Clips, for instance.
And one of my favorite applications, by the way.
Yeah, and if you look at the stories of these founders, these guys are making a very decent living doing this. So I think this is the times we're living in. So we just have to kind of keep looking. I start with the premise of saying that if there's a problem, there probably already is a solution. And I approach it with that premise. So I literally ask the LLM, surprise me and tell me something if there is no tool for something like this. Like that's how I swing it. I just go with the assumption that there is something, right? So no matter how insane or ambitious it might sound, I'm like, hey, ChatGPT, can you give me a tool that does this, this, and the other?
Right.
Because it'll try, even if it can't.
For instance, the other day, I was like, you know what? I've been spending too much time sitting in a place. I need to get on with push-ups and sit-ups and squats.
Yeah.
But I run out of patience, man, because there are walk and steps trackers. There is no push-up tracker. I'm like, how will a push-up tracker even exist? So then I went into ChatGPT and asked, I need a device which is AI powered, which can keep track of a squat. So at the end of the day, I need to know I did 65 squats.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised. There's 6 apps.
I'm curious.
That's a lot of squats.
There's 6 apps that do this.
God.
It's a lot of squats.
Yeah.
Some of these apps are video based. They're going to watch you and they're going to look at your movement.
It knows when
maps,
you're squatting.
Yeah, it maps you. And there are others that kind of check your heart rate. I mean, like, it's insane. People have solved this problem. I'm like, what?
I need one that says, Kelly, you haven't done any squats today. Like, get your butt up and get going.
Yeah. That just gets you.
I like that.
Yeah.
I would start with that.
Yeah.
Next week they'll have that. You know,
Yes.
the,
Yeah,
at
no,
the
they've
rate
heard
that
me. I'm sure
AI is
I'm sure it probably exists.
We talked a lot just now about kind of how AI affects, the internal efficiencies and workflow and management. How do you, and this is kind of what I brought up earlier, how do you see AI intersecting with creative work?
See, AI is the wild, wild west today.
Yeah.
There's so many tools, there's so many things. And, it's like I said, it's a lot of noise. You got to be clear about what you want out of it.
Yeah.
So if you go with the premise of this is my end game, I am spending 5 hours doing something. I want to do the same thing in an hour and then see what AI tells you. Right? Because it needs to be given direction, like an intern, like you said, right? A very clear, specific focus. So instead of asking for, is there a tool that would do this for me? You want to basically say that I want to get this done in this much time, or I want to have fewer people doing this, or something like that, which is a little more of the end result or outcome-oriented question. And then, the AI will spit out a response that's more in line with what you're asking for.
But do you think that there's, like, in terms of creative work and stuff that we do here at TechWyse that is more visual, like where do we kind of draw the line, or should we draw the line between human intervention and AI dominating a certain field? For example, like we've had discussions about like AI imagery and AI in writing content. What's your perspective on making sure that, yes, we use these tools for good, but there's always human intervention. We're
100%.
still deeply checking to make sure that everything that we're putting out for clients or for ourselves has that human touch that doesn't lose completely that need for
Totally.
the
You know
value
what?
of human approach.
100%. With tech, what invariably happens is you can very easily cross the lines of ethics, business ethics, best practices, and values, even before you realize it.
Yeah.
So, of course, in the movies, they take it to a whole new level of science
Yeah,
fiction.
Straight to the
It's
extreme.
always Will Smith and a robot and
Right?
stuff.
Yeah,
But there is some reality to it, right? I mean, you're looking at deep fakes today.
Yeah.
And, I was just thinking the entire legal system depends on video or visuals for evidence. Imagine what deep fake can do to that space.
Scary.
But having said that, yes, I think we all have that obligation to be, to play within certain parameters, because it might be just too late. I think a great example is, when emails happen, people email blasted like crazy.
Yeah.
And then castle compliance came up, and
Exactly.
then those kinds of regulations came in. When AI calling came in, tools like WAPI and stuff like that, they would let you make thousands of cold outbound calls, which is nothing but spamming, right? So then
Yeah.
regulations have come into place to kind of control that. And that will happen very soon in every area. So I think one has to be a little careful about not crossing certain lines, because then you're kind of harming yourself in the long run.
Do you expect more of those regulations to come like at a Canadian government level, for example? Or
legislation
or do you think
being pushed or something?
Could you foresee more like a new formed committee of some sort becoming in charge of more of AI? Have you seen any of that kind of?
Like, is the Wild Wild West coming to an end, or is it
Yeah.
going to continue?
Human beings are part of the wild, wild west. It's not going away. There will always be the taming and the controls put in place.
Yeah.
But that's the nature of human evolution, whether we like it or not. If you have a problem, there is something to control the problem, and then there's a different kind of a problem. So I think that's how things will be. But honestly, it's hard to predict if there's going to be something very tangible in the short term, on the lines of what you mentioned, Kelly.
We're still in new times.
Yeah, totally. So I think unless something really pops up its head as an ugly development,
Right.
That's when, the powers that be would take notice, and then something comes out of it. But I think even the lawmakers are figuring things out.
Yeah.
So
and
I
until
hope
then, I feel like it's our responsibility as marketers and the people who are using the AI to use our own kind of code of ethics and
Employ
safety.
good ethics. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly. So
Yeah.
it is kind of our communal responsibility to use it for good.
Yeah, and I think also the whole debate of what is right and what isn't is also debatable.
Of course.
Yeah, that's a big
Black and
argument
white.
as well.
Yeah, for instance, you could go to a lot of these, stock imagery websites and databases like a Shutterstock or whatever, and use images. Then there's copyrights and all of those things, because you're actually using somebody else's property. Now, if you go to Midjourney or Runway or Sora or any of these cool tools and create something based on a prompt, how do you deal with that?
Right.
It looks visually, magnificent. A lot of the advertising industry now is going that way, where you have brilliant visuals. It still doesn't cross the lines of maybe ethics in its purest form. But if you kind of ended up showing another brand's label, or if you started interpreting or showing things in a way that can create chaos,
Right.
then that's a problem, right? So that's, for instance, the reason why a lot of these social media platforms will inadvertently police the kind of content that you can publish. Facebook will automatically block stuff. YouTube will basically block content or music which has technically copyrighted, sound bites and stuff like that. So the tech automatically exists to control and police what you're doing, but it all starts with you as an individual, right? You got to be a little careful about what you're up to.
I do want to circle back to prompts, because that was something that you have given me more insight into since I've started using more AI in my life and in my work. And prompts really are the secret to getting good results, not just generalized results. And you mentioned earlier about how you've been training some of these paid for versions of applications that you have, and they've gotten to know you and your voice better. But I think it's a misconception, or maybe not everybody knows that you can train AI, and that what you give it is kind of what you get out of it. Because some people, I think, test it and it's just very simple prompts, and you're like, oh, well, this isn't a very good answer.
You're only as good as your prompt.
Right. You're only as good as your prompt. And that's something that it does take time to learn how to do well, and it takes experimenting. What have you learned through the process of experimenting with prompts and tailoring things to your specific voice?
Great question. I think, prompt engineering is a very fancy term. Apparently these days, you can go on Indeed or LinkedIn and look up for jobs for AI prompt engineers, and you'll find a lot of things.
Wild.
There. Yeah.
Wow.
It starts with the premise of you fundamentally knowing how to get somebody to do a task for you. Forget AI prompting for a moment. If I was working with you, Kelly, for the first time, right? You're this capable, smart social media expert.
Thank you.
And if I said, I need you to build a social media calendar for a client and leave it at that, what are you going to do? You're going to run wild.
Yep.
But if I said, these are the parameters, they can be more than these limits.
Yep.
You can't do this, you can't do that. This is the client's logo, this is their brand, this is their tone.
Here's an example of what I'm looking for.
Exactly.
Yep.
That is prompt engineering.
Yes.
So if I am doing a good job of working with you and helping you do well,
it's all in the handover, right?
That's what prompt engineering really is. So I would say just don't overcomplicate it. If you guys know how to instruct somebody very clearly to get a task done, you're a prompt engineer. It's as simple as that. Of course, you need to know how to tweak the language a little when you're talking of using LLMs. If you're using something more sophisticated, like a Replit or a Cursor AI or a Lovable.dev to build software, you got to get a little bit more technical. But there again, your intern, I'm talking about ChatGPT, can help you. You can literally go into ChatGPT and say, I would like to build a landing page with all these parameters. Give me a prompt that I could use in Replit or in Cursor that would give me the desired outcome, and you will be surprised. That's the power of using ChatGPT the right way. I'm not talking about the intern version, which is the free version. I'm talking of a little more of the sophisticated, nuanced engines that exist within these LLMs.
Right.
I think like just one of the more, I guess, humorous aspects when it comes to prompt engineering. I think OpenAI said about how it is costing them billions of dollars because people are saying please and thank you in their prompts with AI. And I wasn't sure how it cost them more money doing that, but I always thought that was interesting. Like, remove your manners when you're talking to ChatGPT.
Yeah. I mean, in the earlier days, right, it's all about using processing power. NVIDIA has become a huge organization now because their processors power all these engines that use all these LLMs, right? So the whole point is processing that word that you just said, which is thank you or please, takes a little micro token from its energy. And that's what it really was all about. I think we've come a long way.
Extra energy cost.
But that's so Canadian of us that some of us are still thanking ChatGPT for helping us out. I do think Siri, every morning I say, hey Siri, what's the weather today? And she tells me, and then I always say thank you. So I've just gotten into that habit, but that's how real some AI has become in our lives. Like you're talking to somebody.
Yeah. Well, I know people that use it as a therapist, like they'll use ChatGPT to sort out their internal problems with their life. So
are you speaking from personal experience?
I mean,
a friend of mine does that.
Yeah. Someone I know. Let me clear my prompt history. But bringing it back home, how is TechWyse currently using AI in real ways? Like,
I think we're
without giving away all our secrets.
Without giving the sauce away too much.
Secret sauce. All right. I think in principle we are trying to use AI in every which way possible, with the end goal of making sure that our consumers, our customers, our clients get the best return on their investment. As simple as that, right? If something took us theoretically, let us say 10 hours, right? If you can do that in a couple of hours, which is AI powered or AI enabled, then we can do a lot more in those 10 hours, or you can basically ask the client to you can charge them a more reasonable fee because you figured out how you could do the same thing in 2, not 10. So I think that is the leading philosophy behind what we're doing. And I think in every single area, in every department, from accounting, financing to SEO processing services to inter-team communications, everything is being very tightly now looked at, and we are trying to bring in innovation in every regard, in every aspect of how we do things. The funny part is, in the process of doing these things, we're also, improving our processes itself. Because a process that probably took 5 handoffs now does not need to have 4 of those handoffs. So that means the process itself is changing. So that's exciting stuff.
Very
exciting stuff. Before we head out, lots of great insights. I learned it was like an extended guru meeting. We do this meeting once a week where like all of us kind of get together and we talk about AI. But any takeaway, one specific piece of advice that you'd like to give to marketers, business leaders, everybody that's navigating this AI space right now?
Well, I think stay curious. And if you come from the premise of, hey, there's something cool happening today, let's look at what that is, it'll just suck you in and it can be a lot of fun. So I just feel have fun with it, right? I mean, there doesn't need to be a competition with anyone. You go at your own pace and just be open. Just be open, because somebody might tell you something which is going to completely shake your belief system. Right? Like, for instance, I've been a very strong strategist, and strategy is my strength. Operations and process is my strength. And I need to be open to the possibility that a lot of what I can do can be done very efficiently using AI. Now, it's in my best interest to leverage those systems and tools and methods to make myself more effective. So as long as that is the approach, I think we're good.
And I do want to give you your flowers a second time, that as someone who has had a very interesting career and you're further along in your career, not saying anything, don't get me wrong, but for someone like Chris and I who are still kind of ramping up our careers and digging in, we've gotten really used to learning new things really, really fast with how quickly digital marketing and social media has changed in the last couple of years. But as someone who has come through a lot of different industries and experiences, I give you your flowers that you're still willing to keep that learning going and learn new things and learn new tricks, because I think a lot of business owners or leadership members at a lot of organizations will kind of say like, well, I'm actually trying to like just kind of close out my career, or I'm looking to just kind of like do things how I always wanted to do, or they get a little stuck in their ways because they've always done it a certain way. And that's something that I admire about you, is that you're like, if there's a better way, we're going to figure out how to do it, and we're going to try it, and we're going to pivot. We're not just going to keep doing the same thing over and over again and it's expecting a different result. So
firstly, thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate this aspect.
Secondly, isn't it fun?
It's fun. It is fun.
I mean, honestly, innovation came out of boredom, guys.
Yeah.
The hardworking person will keep working very, very hard. The lazy guy is going to find out smarter ways to do the same thing quicker. So that's my take.
Shout out to Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
There you go. So I think there's a lot of value in that philosophy, right? So
awesome. Well, thank you so much, Raghu. We appreciate you coming on the podcast for the very first time. Not the last time, but
thank you to all our listeners back home. Subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening. We do appreciate your listenership, and we will be back with another episode very soon.
See you next time.
Thank you.